Welcome to the Unicom Channel English Department. To the lecture today, be with us. Initially, we welcome everyone and salute all the attendants and honor us the bright, great view of bright faces, the seeker of knowledge and truth in order of awareness and the human advance. Be with us and to the lecture today. So, to there.
Welcome listeners of Unicom Channel English Language Department in today's lecture under the title, How does the Unicom philosophy view the emergence and development of existence? Through careful and profound research into the history of human experience, it turns out that all theories, visions, and perceptions related to universes, whether they are the scientific theories which were guided by theory of Big Bang, or the theological theories which guided theory of creation, no matter how the differences, they meet in that the cosmic existence has a moment, primitive and final moment, but that point of contrast lies in how was the beginning and fate of the end, and in answering the question, what was or who was behind the start moment? And while philosophers of scientific cosmology see infinite continuity by repeating the same event itself, visualizers of theology see it as an affair of its creator, which he will annihilate at a great end. They visualize its details between immortality and tragedy and immortality and welfare, as an embodiment of the state of reward and retribution, which will be implemented on God's creatures who created them by himself and they walked according to his will. So this is not an end but rather its continuity in a different stage for the same world, and in both cases, scientific or theological, it will be a shameful end. For that all theologies are mental visualizations and not an existing present with a palpable reality, because it is an act or command of metaphysical beings, according to visualizations of human beings who believe in them, and therefore they are outside the scope of knowledge and practicing, and what applies to it is what applies to the two dimensions, the eternal dimension and the distant dimension, and these two dimensions fall outside framework of mental visualizations, which is a fictitious visualized of beginning of existence and end of universe, and it is according to indications of theology. Either it is the beginning and destiny of existence could be in the distant past and the eternal future, and there is no real fact epistemic connection to it with our human world. It is considered in the unknown world, or to abolish whole idea of creation theory, due to incorrectness of legend of beginning and end of world that forms basis of theology. It is worthy of us to answer the question, is it possible for generations of humankind to continue on something that they know is not true? Even if no one who is able to answer the questions asked, however, the Unicom conception of evolution sees with regard to the beginning and the end of the universe and what was before the beginning, or fate of the end, it resides in two dimensions, absolutely not communicating with the third dimension, even if they have an imaginary existence. And they are dissonant and contradictory and symmetrical. The relationship between them lies in imaginary visualization lines, source of which is the third dimension, which are the eternal historical dimension, and the horizontal futuristic dimension, and both are outside the dialectical space and outside the practicality space. Although they are subject to sphere of mental visualization, validity of their existence cannot be relied upon through evidence and proofs, except when it has been exceeded by the visual space, and it falls within framework of practicality space, then gradually may prove valid or fall in front of experimental and realism, and thus we have removed all theology, metaphysics, and miracles from practical space to the visualization space and what is behind it, in ranges of horizons in eternity, outside the realm of reality and truth, and therefore that working with it, if it is not a research, it is absurd and non-binding in any case, within the scope of practicality space, where the living organisms live. And therefore, everything related to the eternal dimension and the horizontal dimension is under research and falls within framework of study and research circles and not for application, because they are mental representations and are not sensory. It is not even realistic findings, thus falls into this classification, all the primitives and beginnings metaphors of existence, and its open horizontal destiny. It is nonsense, lying, fraud, and pathological delusion that a human being tells people that he communicated or has any kind of relationship, or intermediaries, or intermediary beings with a non-existent metaphysical supernatural being related to origin of universe and its organization and movement, whether in the past or history or the present or the future, unless this the being which he envisioned is able to prove its exists practically in ambit of senses of all people. The eternal past, which it is the present, which our existence embodies, it is the same abysmal past, which embodies what was behind everything, and thus it is the same future prospects, which fall within the realm of mental visualizations, or after realm of mental visualizations, and therefore the eternal is an inherent in every existing, and therefore has a tangible presence in every time and everywhere, and it changes and develops in himself and from himself, because the eternal is the comprehensive universe, and the whole are parts from it, and therefore have no authority and no decision and no will to him, because its existence divided in presence of its components, and because rationales of particles beings they are which move everything towards a comprehensive event for the universe. And therefore if it is possible to any of these inner rhythms to be conscious about those internal rationales for components of cosmic existence evident, it is possible to control the systems that run the universe, and as long as elements of consciousness are concentrated in minds of living beings, and therefore there is no being in the whole universe with a mind that surpasses the human mind in the strength and progress issue of controlling the universe and its future and its destiny remains a human task, and therefore there is no necessity calling on people to waste time and human energy in worship or belief in the uncanny metaphysical beings that do not exist in reality. As the philosophy of Unicom embodies this triple dimension of nature of world in an embodiment of just an equilateral and equiangular triangle in an endless journey between divergence and slope, when they are released from the starting point that represents the beginning center, while advancing into imaginary lines for the development, representing power of latent energy for growth, which may escape from center of eternal origin, till they intersect with an imaginary line where creates two equal angles, while equal with the starting angle. So an equilateral triangle and equal angles had become formed, representing a time period. It is age of period of positive growth and development, at the same time the latent eternal energy keep by its force advancing in imaginary line. It starts from the beginning point in a straight line that represents the equilibrium point between the two forces that going away from each other, and crosses the imaginary line, which link between the two waning angles, in a point at an equal distance between the two angles, and when the momentum of growth is reaching its fullest stage, it begin to fade into two angles of equal refraction to the starting angle. Those are the angles of decay. And here begins to draw two imaginary lines drawn gradually towards the fixed equilibrium line embodied by the underlying eternal energy, and process of losing energy and waning continues, while the attraction force towards the center increases, until the three imaginary lines meet at point of final collapse in a fourth angle equal to the starting angle and the two decay angles, while symmetrical with the starting angle, and thus creating another triangle of decay, corresponding to the triangle of growth, and they share the imaginary line linking angles of decay that constitute the third side of both, and in the embodiment of cosmic existence, forming the present, which is product of a deep past at its fullest stage of growth, as well as seeds for an unknown future in the beginning of its development, where the eternal energy power has formed a phantom line that meets the imaginary line linking angles of dwindles in place of fictitious straight line of eternal energy force linking the starting point and the collapse point. And this is embodiment of age of journey for every being, between moment of existence and moment of fading, including the comprehensive universe. While the beings fade in the universe back to their fundamental origins, then the initial situation that made the eternal beginning exists, the comprehensive universe fades into itself. Because it is only the constituent beings of it. This process natural happens to every being reached situation of creation, and became in a situation of growth and development, thus the beings exist, grow, evolve, and decay and collapse, then fading as compounds, but its eternal origins are completely forgotten its past, because they are compounds and products and not eternal origins. Certainly, some will ask, what is the inference of Unicom's philosophy based on its visualizations of universe and its deduced theories about evolution? And the answer is that we from the beginning said that Unicom's visualizations are based on tracing history of cosmic experience and history of human experience, and are based on the activities and behavior of nature's movement. What the cosmologists assert is that our world is tripartite dimensional. At the same time, everyone conceives of cosmologists and theologians that there is a beginning, and they are all ignorant of when and where it started, and how. In that there is an end, while all of them are ignorant of when, where, and how, and all of them are wondering who is behind all that, and then what after all that? The result is that no one answers. While theoreticians of theology are fabricating a lie, falsity, and falsehood by suspending the whole matter beginning, end, and what precedes it and what is going on between them, on the shoulders of absent beings who are completely ignorant of them, and are unable to face the slightest challenges and primitive threats, which the activities of nature movement produce them. Except through the use of capabilities and activities of human mind, far from their sources and theological contents, even if the threat faces an existential fate of these theological sources. Then once they finish their treatment in one of science centers, until they resort to platforms for theology to announce victory of unseen creatures' new jurisprudence to save them. Instead of encouraging science and research centers to progress and develop, and that gives a deduction at expense of human society which suffer in various circumstances of tragedy. Even though we are from platforms of Unicom Creed, thus we announce beginning of real confrontation with the challenges and threats of humanity. This it does not mean an invitation to end of metaphysical society's platforms, but rather an invitation to reconsider its cosmic and human concepts. Here we end our lecture on how does the Unicom philosophy view the emergence and development of existence. And to a meeting in another lecture about the emergence of beings, follow us in the video lectures at our known sites.